Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I just wanted to thank you all for 1,000+ subscribers on YouTube. So here is the promised Q&A. I went ahead and asked you guys both on YouTube and Instagram if you guys had any specific questions you would like me to answer, and I did get quite a few responses, so we can get started on that. So here is our first question. What are your favorite traditional tools to use when doing commissions? So far, most of my commissions have all been traditional, like ink commissions. So here is my baggie with all of my lining pens. I have quite a few different brands in here, so let me just show you guys my inking pens. Okay, that's quite a lot. But so I have I think I have so far 3 different types of inking pens that I like to use for my commissions. It really depends on the character sheet that I'm given. So for example, if I notice that the character has more middle gray tones, then most of the time I am gonna have to use my Copic multi-liners, just because for certain parts I do need to go over with my gray Copics just to give more of that grayscale definition, and in that case I would use my Copic gray colors. I use either the N series or the W for neutral tone and warm tone. So whenever I know that I have to use Copic for gray, I will 100% always use my Copic multi-liners, just because if you try to use the Copics with any other type of ink liner, it will feather and it will pretty much spread the ink and it's going to become a huge mess. I've learned the hard way, so for those type of scenarios I will always use my Copic multi-liners. And if I know that the commission that I have, if it's just a 100% black and white with little to no grayscale, I will just go ahead and use my other 2 liners that I currently have. I have Artline and I have Sakura Micro Pen. So these aren't necessarily like my go-to, but these are the ones that I've just had for the longest time, so I still use them. They're still pretty good. So these are the ones I use when it's just completely black and white, no grayscale, just because I don't have to worry about using any Copic. I don't have to worry about any bleeding or any marker, just pretty much this. So these are for all my multi-liners. I believe the sizes that I have for these, it ranges, but in total I have 0.03 I think is my smallest that I have. Most of that I think is actually from a Copic if I could find it, and it goes up to a 1.0 I believe. So I have this one 0.05, but I do have a 0.03. It goes up to 0.8 and 1.0. And for areas that are like bigger, I do have these special Copic brush tip, just so that it's easier to fill out. And I also have these. I don't really remember where I got these from, but these are meant to be just for filling in as well. As you can see, it has like the ink that goes in and out. This is also like a brush type, so I usually use these brush types when I have to fill out any large black areas like hair, pieces of clothing, etc. And for my commissions, I like to add a little pop of gold, just to make it, I don't know, I like glitter and I have gold pens, so that's kind of what I do. So for those, I have this glitter marker. I actually got this at the swap meet once, and I really like it. The pigmentation for this is really good. It has the ink inside, but I've had this for quite a few years and it's lasted me for so long, but I think it's almost dead. I'm gonna be so sad when it's gone, because this is my go-to. I was actually gifted this at Anime Expo when I was doing the artist alley. This is part of their Copic Acrea. This is actually also gold. This was like, these were given to us randomly, and I got a gold and I was like, oh wow, because I could use this for my commissions. So yeah, it's gold. It kind of works like a Posca marker. I do use this for adding little like details like sparkles and stuff, but this gold is not as like bright and glittery as the other gold I have. This is more like a metallic-y gold, but it's still pretty nice. So this is what I use for my commission ink work, and when I do have to go back in with some like detailing for little white specks, I used to use like white gel pens, but I feel like they're really opaque. They're not as bright as I would like them to be. So I actually switched over and I use Deleter white ink. So this is like ink that you use for like manga and stuff. It's actually really good. It's really bright. And for this, I do use a Deleter nib. Just because it's really small, you can go in with all the details. So I try to use this more for like little like small white details, like the specks in the eyes, little glitter and stuff like that. But yeah, so since this is pretty much all I use for my traditional ink commissions. So yes. What inspired you to start selling merch at cons? When I first entered the anime convention space and going as a normal attendee and going to Artist Alley and seeing that that was even a thing you could do, showcase your work, your art, and you know, even sell it. I just found that to be so amazing at the time. So I had always grown up knowing about Artist Alley. I feel like it was just like something I wanted to check off my bucket list at least once as an artist. So I didn't really have big plans for it. Like I started off with very small merch and with barely little any expectation, just because it was my first time. And when I started, like I would still consider myself to be a small artist, you know. I only have like barely 1K, and I've been having this art account for so many years. So I was like, and this was like, oh my goodness, when did I even start doing Artist Alley? I want to say 2021, so even 3 years ago. So I think at the time I barely had like maybe 400 followers on Instagram or less. So yeah, I didn't go in like, oh my god, I'm a big artist, I'm gonna make so much money. It was more like, oh well, let's see what happens, you know. And you know, I guess I went in and I was really shocked that a lot of people actually liked my work, and you know, people wanted to pay for my stuff, and I was like, you want to pay for my art? Okay, thank you. And that just made me a little bit more confident in, wow, maybe I should do this. Like, this is actually kind of fun. And you know, you get the chance to meet new people, meet other artists, which I thought was really amazing. I'd always loved seeing all these other artists, and they'd go hang out with like their other artist friends, and they'd have dinner afterwards, and you know, it was just so cool. And I was like, wow, I want to have that too. I want to have some cool artist friends that I could like hang out with and get dinner and just chill with and vibe. But yeah, it's been a work in progress for sure. Seeing like back then my first Artist Alley booth in Anime Pasadena in 2021 till now, it's just such a big difference. Like, I was able to even vend at like my, you know, DreamCon too. So I feel like, yeah, just doing Artist Alley for sure has given me such like a journey, I'd say. So for sure, if you're interested in Artist Alley, I'd say just go for it. You don't have to have these like amazing merchandise and these really big you know, things. Just, you know, go ahead, give it a try and see what happens. You never know. See where it takes you. Next question, favorite traditional art supplies? Okay, so for favorite traditional art supplies, even though I do digital, I am actually very fond of traditional. So these are my go-tos. I already showed you guys my inking stuff. So if I'm not doing any traditional black and white ink, I am doing marker, Copic art to be specific, mostly with alcohol markers. So these are some of my Copic markers. So I've actually really been a huge Copic fan ever since I was young, just because whenever I'd see like gorgeous manga art, I'd always see that they'd have like spreads of like illustrations used with Copics. So now that I'm an adult and I have adult money, I've been able to splurge and get some Copics. I'm still learning how to use them. I'm not like a professional, but it's good practice. So these are just some of my markers, and these are some other refills I have. So yeah. So my current goal is to get better at markers just because I'm not that great. I actually have this is my little thingy for Copic paper, so specifically paper for Copic art. So this is where I usually use for mixed media. Just let me see if I have any completed artworks. Some of these are old. Okay, these are so like some of my Copic art. But yeah, so I have been more Copic art. So I'm not like a professional, but I'm trying to practice. But yeah, I love Copic markers. There's so many colors. I want to collect them all, but yeah. So usually, for sure, I think like, yeah, even though I do digital now, but honestly, I kind of want to go back to doing a lot more traditional, because, you know, go back to your roots kind of thing. But for sure, I just like traditional, so I like to do inking with like my ink pens. And then if I'm feeling a little bit adventurous, then I switch over to Copic. But yeah, these are my go-to. I have tried doing watercolor before, and it's so hard. Like, I have done a few watercolor pieces and I would like to get better, but I feel like, I don't know, I have to have patience. I feel like the learning curve for watercolor is so much more wider. So I feel like I'm just more a little bit better at doing this. I have also done I also sometimes use my colored pencils when I have to do like traditional art, but this is mostly like for mixed media. So like when I'm working with any Copic illustrations, like actually like, yeah, like in here, some of these Copic illustrations have some colored pencil here. Let me see if I can find it. You probably can't see on here, but usually after I go in with my ink liners and then I do like my Copic markers, if there's like any little extra things, I usually go in with my colored pencils. These are Prismacolor. These were a gift, birthday gift many years ago, and I still have them, but I like to go in with colored pencils just to go over and give a little bit more depth. So I guess you could say technically I do like mixed media, because, you know, I'm mixing these 3 different things. So for sure I would have to say then for my favorite traditional art tools, 100% inking liners with Copics and a sprinkle of colored pencils. But yeah, hope to get better at traditional and maybe showcase more traditional art here as well. So yeah, those are my favorite traditional art tools to use. What is your current favorite type of merch to make? Now that I've been doing Artist Alley for quite a while now, I feel like I've had a good chance to make a whole variety of different types of merch. I've made charms, I've made prints, I've also made pins, different types of pins, like heart pins, hollow pins, normal circular pins. I've also done like acrylic pins. So yeah, I've done quite a good range, I'd say. But on favorite type of merch, I would probably have to say I really do enjoy making charms. I feel like charms is so versatile. There's so many types of different materials you can make, not only in the different types of acrylic that, you know, you get, aside from like holographic and non-holographic and like glitter and epoxy and regular. There's so many options as well. Like some of them you could add charms. The clasps have so many different varieties as well, so I feel like you have more of area to play with in terms of charms, as well as illustrations in different sizes. Just, you could do so much with it. I feel like it's just kind of a free-for-all in terms of creativity. So I really like charms for that aspect, especially when you could do a lot of cute stuff with it. Like, I really love adding bows to my charms. I just feel like it gives it that extra little cutesy factor in them. So yeah, I really like doing charms. I will like to make more charms. I feel like the most of my merch is charms. I think currently I have, I want to say, I think I have almost between 35 to 40 charm designs. Actually, no, wait. I remember now. I numbered my charms specifically for Anime Expo, and I had over 50 charms total, including like my small charms to big charms. I have like around 55 actually. I think, yeah, I have like 55 charms. So yeah, I really like doing charms. I wish I could do more charms, but I am currently like I have so many charms in boxes. I need to, make more room to make more charms. But yeah, I'd say for sure charms are my favorite to do, just because they're so cute and they're so tangible and you can do so much with it. But yeah, hopefully I, have more plans for charms in the future, but I gotta clear up space with the ones I currently have. Next question is, could you tell us about the process of creating the Gothic shoujo style manga art and give tips for those who want to create in this style? So if you want to for sure kind of get into trying to make your art style seem more of like the Gothic shoujo manga style, there's 3 things that I would totally recommend. So these things have helped me curate my art into making it my own style of like Gothic shoujo. So the first thing I would 100% recommend is to go ahead and read and look at older shoujo manga that has these same sort of like aesthetics and styles that you might be leaning towards. My personal number one inspiration and mangaka like god would be Kaori Yuki. She is the author and illustrator for Angel Sanctuary and Godchild, also known as the Kane series. So for sure her artwork has like left me like super just, oh my god, I just love her art. So for sure she's one of my top inspirations. There's other manga titles that may not be necessarily like shoujo-esque or like super gothic, but they I think are kind of like in the similar area. So some of these titles would be Yami no Matsui, also known as Descendants of Darkness. Clamp is known for a lot of their like really cute and colorful titles, but some of their darker titles such as Tokyo Babylon and X 1999 are actually really good as well. I would totally recommend checking that out as well. Trinity Blood too, just their art style is really gorgeous and amazing, so I suggest those are my personal favorite titles that I would recommend to check out if you want to kind of study more of this art style. But I've noticed that for sure like what these styles have in common, and that I kind of try to put an emphasis in terms of like my Gothic shoujo manga art, is just the line art. Line art is so important. Making sure you get that like really specific sort of like line art feel. Like there's a lot of blacks. I've noticed that there's not a lot of grayscale in terms of this type of like art style. It's mostly a lot of white and like hard black shading. So for sure I'd say study up on that type of like inking style that's really particular in these type of like art style. The second thing that I would recommend too is to go ahead and check out like Lolita fashion. There's so much inspiration you could get from Lolita fashion. A lot of like these Gothic shoujo mangas tend to take elements from this fashion substyles. So for sure you might want to check that out. I recommend either, maybe not Pinterest, not anymore, but there's a lot of websites where you could look at these sort of fashion styles. One of them is Devil Inspired. There's also like Lolita fashion. There's so many blogs out there too, maybe even YouTube videos, but I feel like the type of clothing for these sub fashions are so very like iconic in these sort of manga styles, and it just kind of helps you with like the aesthetics, and you get a feeling for, you know, how to draw it. They're basically like references, And since personally I also participate in these like subculture of fashion, it has really helped me as well, and like get a really good appreciation for not only the art style but the fashion. So that really helps. There's just so much you could do with it too. Like there's gothic Lolita, there's classic Lolita, there's elegant Lolita, and there's like other like substyles you could go into. But if you want to do like gothic shoujo manga, I would say these three type of like Lolita fashion styles are the main ones that I had always like recurringly had seen. And also for Lolita fashion, I can't believe I forgot to mention my number one favorite style that I love and adore, Oji style, which is also known as their Prince style. Also very popular. If you're not really into like the cute girly frills of Lolita, look into Oji. It's still a sub-style of Lolita, but it's more for like the Prince, the boy style, so please go ahead and check that out. So the third thing that I would totally recommend to look into is visual kei. So visual kei is basically a category of Japanese music. It leans more towards gothic music. The aesthetics of visual kei, the costuming, their outfits, the music videos, like their special effects, everything about visual kei is also very like pretty much gothic. Honestly, I'd say like with like shoujo, like gothic shoujo manga, Lolita fashion, and visual kei, all three of them pretty much just kind of borrow from each other in terms of like aesthetics, and just pretty much, yeah, you see it. Whatever you see in visual kei, you have seen in the shoujo mangas and in Lolita. What you see in Lolita, you have seen in manga and visual kei. It's just, you know, it kind of just comes all into a nice little package. So if you want to like try to get into making like shoujo gothic manga art, I would say looking into these three things is gonna help a lot. There really isn't like a tutorial on how to draw gothic shoujo manga, but I would say these three things are very inspirational in terms of figuring out like the aesthetics you like, or which aesthetics you prefer. Some people might prefer more of the visual kei darker gothic aesthetics instead of like the more cute frilly like Lolita style, but you know, I'd say look into these three main things and it will pretty much just help you figure out what you want to take into your art style for like gothic shoujo manga. Next question is, tell us about your art process. In terms of my art process, it really does differ depending if I'm doing like a full illustration for like a print, or maybe just some personal art, or if I plan to use it for a project. But overall, I think I really try to plan ahead of time, like before I actually begin the full illustration. I look at a lot of references for sure. I try to look up different compositions and just references on Pinterest if I can, a lot of photography. I try to go in already with a mindset of what I would like to convey through an art piece. Do I want to make it like bright and happy, or do I want to make it like more somber, dark? Depending on the mood is obviously going to also factor into the poses and whatnot. So usually I try to come up with at least 3 different poses for each illustration, just so that I have variety and I can maybe visualize it better, and from then I can maybe pick and choose different aspects of each illustration that I prefer, and then try to combine it into like one whole piece. So once I figure out my complete sketch, I go ahead and do the clean sketch on paper and pencil. I still feel really comfortable doing that traditional wise, and then usually I take a picture, I upload it to my either Clip Studio or Procreate. If I plan to make this illustration for print, then I will always do my coloring on Procreate and do my line art on Clip Studio Paint. But if it's just personal art that I don't plan to print at all, then it will always be Clip Studio Paint. So I try to do that. I try to really focus on my line art for sure. A lot of like line weight, I feel like it's really important for my art style at least. And then I just go in with like my usual flats. I really can't say much about my coloring process just because I'm not that strong, I believe, in coloring. I don't think it's one of my stronger suits of my art style in most cases. To make up for that lack of strong suit in my art, I try to make it up with like my line art and background. I know some artists struggle a lot with background. I do struggle with background as well, but I feel more comfortable trying to come up with some sort of background instead of like coloring. But I try to do like flower backgrounds with maybe a little bit of architecture. I really like roses and flowers and columns and vines, kind of like that type of look. As for composition, I'm still learning some of it as well, so I can't give a lot of tips on that. But one thing that I can say is, for example, when you do portrait art of a character, I've always heard and been told that you don't want it to look static. You want to include some form of movement. So if you don't want to give them like an action pose, which is something I don't really do, what I try to do personally is to add some fluid in terms of maybe like the hair, especially if they have long hair. You can make the hair look like it's maybe flowing in the wind, or if it's short hair, have some of the bangs or side hair look like it's being like lifted by a slight breeze. I also try to draw like hands. I was really bad at hands. I feel more comfortable drawing hands, so I feel like just drawing hands in like that portrait type of drawing helps a lot. It could either be a hand that's like on their chest that might be holding something, even just doing like a peace sign, or resting on their chin or their head. Even that alone already gives it some form of movement and makes your piece not look static. So I think that's what I would recommend for like that type of composition. If you're trying to do like a portrait of a character, it just gives it a little bit more to it, pretty much. I feel like composition is a little bit easier though when it comes to when you're making art with more than one character, because there you could play with the relationship between the two characters that you're drawing. Are they friends? Are they lovers? Are they strangers? Etc. etc. There's so much more you could play with. And that relationship would also affect obviously the composition you're working on. So there's just a lot more to play with. Alright, so this question was your art journey. Okay, so for your art journey, this could be a really broad answer. I'm just gonna go ahead and maybe stick with like how I've gotten up to this point where I am in my art journey. So I've pretty much always been drawing ever since I can remember. I don't recall ever not drawing at some point in my life. And as for like me getting into like anime type of art, I guess you could say it pretty much started like when I was in elementary school. I remember my dad brought a Sailor Moon VHS, and I just remember being amazed about the art style and how pretty it was. So ever since that, I always gravitated towards anything with that similar art style, and I found out about like anime and manga. And in middle school is when I got introduced to like actual manga, like at the school library and the local library. So ever since then, I'd always liked looking at manga and the art, and I try to like mimic my own manga art style with that. So yeah, as a teenager, I always liked working on like my own manga with like computer paper, line paper, do my own thing. I think I still have them, so maybe one day I'll show them on another video if anyone wants to see my cringe manga that I made when I was in middle school. But yeah, so that had always been like my thing. Like I was like, oh my god, I want to be a mangaka when I grow up and whatnot. And around that time, like in middle school, that's when I did the switch from traditional to digital art. That was such a huge learning curve. It's literally like learning how to draw all over again. you know, having to get used to like the mechanics and everything of digital art. And then once I got into high school, that's when I started thinking about maybe pursuing art professionally. I wanted to go to like art school, and I was considering maybe doing like CGI art or like 3D rendering for like movies, or maybe go into animation, like go to CalArts. But art school is like really expensive, so I never bothered with applying just because I didn't want to go into debt for art school. And throughout college, I still took time to draw, like just as a hobby thing, try to, you know, better my skills. I did take like a art 101 class in community college, if that counts for anything. And once I started like working and have like adult money, that's when I decided to try out like Artist Alley, because I finally had money to help make merch. And yeah, I did Artist Alley and the response was really good, so I decided to continue doing those type of events and doing Artist Alley. As for that, I don't plan on pursuing Artist Alley as a full-time job. I would like to continue doing it though, like every once in a while for like fun, just because I have you know, friends now that are also in Artist Alley. So I think now I want to focus on doing a lot of like passion projects and maybe making that dream come true of making my own manga. Overall, like I feel like my art has improved over the last few years. I wasn't really happy with it just a few years ago, but I'm getting to a point where I'm satisfied with it. I still want to focus on, you know, certain aspects of my art to better it. So yeah, just hoping to continue to learn, honing those skills, and work on more passion projects in the future. And that pretty much wraps up our Q&A. So thank you a lot for everyone that submitted their questions. I hope I was able to answer them in a helpful way, or the way that you expected me to answer them. But yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, that's it for this video, and hopefully I'll be able to have another video in the near future. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.